General Hospital sees Britt Westbourne's Kelly Thiebaud. Name dropping recently, and lots of questions about Rocco Falconeri's Finn Care, origin story bubbling up, and that could mean twists afoot since we know Kelly Thiebaud is back in July. Kelly Thiebaud's GH return. Will Britt West be resurrected or recast? Alright, with just a few weeks before Kelly Thiebaud's return to GH, there's still the lingering question of who she's going to play. Is General Hospital going to find a way to bring Britt back from the dead? Even if they undid her death by Heather Weber's, Allie Mills, hook stabbing, and the poison on the hook, there's still the fact her character had Huntington's disease, which is incurable. The writers would have to say Britt was misdiagnosed or something, because to invent a fictional cure to a real-life dire illness would be tacky and probably wouldn't fly with fans. Or maybe they're going to bring in Kelly Thiebaud to play a recast of an existing character. However, that seems like a long shot because Britt's name is coming up again, and her photo, and Brooke Lynn Quartermaine, Amanda Seton, is looking into Britt's tangled past with Lulu Spencer, Alexa Havens Bruning. So, with BLQ looking for a way to get vengeance on Lulu for what she did, ruining her son Gio's life. This Britt thing is obviously important, so now I'm honestly wondering if they are going to try and bring back Britt with some wonky rewrite of her death, or maybe we're going to get a Britt Westbourne twin twist. I mean, let's face it, GH loves to do twins. General Hospital's history of twins. Could Britt West have a secret sibling? We've had so many instances where an evil twin or a doppelganger popped up out of nowhere. You know, often there's a good twin and an evil twin. We have had the Rivera brothers. We have had the Alcazar brothers, the Ruiz brothers. Those were minor, and then we've had some bigger ones. You know, kindly Kevin Collins, John Lindstrom, and his evil twin serial killer Ryan Chamberlain, also John Lindstrom. Anna Devane, Finola Hughes, and wicked Alex Devane, also Finola Hughes, were twinsies. And of course, crazy wicked Nell Hayes, Chloe Lanier, and weak-minded but sweet at heart Willow Tate, Caitlin McMullen. And then there's Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, Andrew Kane, Cameron Matheson. General Hospital. Evil twins multiply. You know, for a while, Jason seemed like the more wicked one as a mob enforcer and hitman. But ever since his prison stint, Drew has turned out to be the evil twin everybody hates. And then, of course, Luke Spencer, Anthony Geary, had that doppelganger. Bill Ehrt looked just like him, plus his wicked other, side personalities when he did. So yeah, General Hospital loves good and evil twins, secret twins, twins we'd never heard of. So they could give Britt a twin to bring Kelly Thiebaud back, and maybe it's a twin who has info about this Rocco thing. It's totally doable because we met Britt as a fully formed adult, and there's not a ton of details about her origin story. There's been passing mentions of her upbringing. Of course, she knew her mom, Lizzle Lebrecht, Kathleen Gaddy, and her father, Cesar Faison, Anders Hove. So it wasn't like she didn't know her parents or anything. And then, of course, Britt had a brother, Nathan West, Ryan Peaty, that was raised by her aunt, Madeline Reeves, Donna Mills, another psycho, because Lizzle didn't want Nathan subjected to crazy Faison's awfulness. But Britt knew him even if they weren't raised as siblings or anything, So who's to say Liesl didn't have twins and raised the other apart from Britt? Possibly apart from Faison. There's lots of options. Britt Westbourne's potential evil twin, exploring Liesl Obrecht and Cesar Faison's secrets. I do remember quite distinctly how much Liesl Obrecht loved Cesar Faison like obsessively. But he had that long-running fixation on Anna, and that drove Dr. O crazy. So, Liesl could have had twin girls and hid one from Faison, or they might have split them. Anything is possible with Liesl and Faison. Maybe he forced Liesl to give him one of the twins, and they each raised one. Britt knew the twin or didn't know the twin. Lots of options. It'd be awesome if Britt has a twin that was even more wicked than she was at her worst point. I mean, the Britch was a villainess in her own right, especially when she first came on the scene on General Hospital. But she wasn't like pure malevolent evil like Faison wanted her to be. You know, Britt never pleased her father in that way. And then, of course, he died after killing his son Nathan. Just a horrible monster. And by the time Britt herself died, she was pretty much a good guy. You know, she had stopped the scheming and all the devious ways. So I think it would be wildly fun if Britt's awful twin turned up and freaked out everybody in Port Charles. Rocco's paternity twist. Will Brooklyn uncover Britt's secret connection? So, with Brooklyn and Marco Rios, Adrian and Tondo, researching Britt, they may find out she's got a twin we didn't know about. That could lead to another bombshell about Rocco, because he's got a backstory that's all twisted up with Britt that he probably doesn't even know about. I mean, why would anyone tell Rocco the bizarre story of his birth? And you know, is there a chance that will change around with Kelly Thiebaud coming back? We all know Brooklyn hired attorney Marco to do some research on Britt. So he dug in, and Marco came over to report to Brooklyn. But he's also curious why she's looking into Britt, since she is a dead woman. And Brooklyn told Marco she is going to prove that Lulu is not half the mother she says she is. And then Brooklyn told Marco about how Britt was desperate to have a baby with her then boyfriend Patrick Drake, Billy Thompson, and turned up pregnant. General Hospital. DNA drama. Britt later said Patrick wasn't the dad and Brad Cooper was, and then later Nicholas Cassadine, then Tyler Christopher, got pulled into it. Britt gave birth to a son she named Ben on the floor at Windermere, and Elizabeth Weber, Rebecca Herbst, had some suspicion. She ran a DNA test on the baby at General Hospital, and it tested as a match for Dante, Falconer, Dominic Zamprogna, which caused a bunch of confusion. And it ultimately came out Britt had stolen an embryo that Lulu and Dante had in storage, and none of her other embryos were viable after that. That's why they just have the one kid. However, GH could either undo the DNA test that Liz did or pretend it never happened. I mean, we have seen GH ignore history and undo history way too many times, some of them pretty recently, so maybe they're going to change it up and have Rocco really be Britt's child with somebody. And you know, Rocco's not Dante and Lulu's kid after all. That'd be wild. It would be some big karmic backlash on Lulu if Rocco turned out not to be hers and Brooklyn is the only one who's given birth to Dunn's biological child. And of course, when Brooklyn unpacked the bizarre story about Rocco and Britt, we saw Marco was just like, what? He was totally blown away. And now BLQ wants to get her hands on Rocco's original birth certificate to see what it says. So the bin birth certificate, I guess. And when Marco was asking for more info, Brooklyn said that she's paying him to get her what she wants, and then she'll choose what she does with what he finds out. GH's twists and turns. Could Rocco be Emma's half-sibling? So GH could twist it that the embryo that Britt stole from Lulu Spencer and Dante didn't take, and she was actually pregnant by Patrick. Kind of like when Maxie Jones, Kirsten Storms, was a surrogate but then turned up pregnant by Damian Spinelli, Bradford Anderson, you know, for Lulu. So, and they mentioned that the other day as well. So that's just why that's on my mind. But if for some reason Britt actually did get pregnant by Patrick, that would make Emma and Rocco half-siblings, which would be really wild. If they somehow undo Rocco's paternity, it would crush Lulu, so we'll see what BLQ and Marco find out. If Rocco really is Britt's child, I'm quite certain Brooklyn would rub it in Lulu's face and make sure that Dante knew. Because as Lulu herself said, Dante deserves to know the truth about his son. Of course, exposing it would devastate Rocco. And if this is where the story is going and Britt's gone, it would parallel Gio having a dead mom. I'm guessing BLQ would tell Dante and Lulu in private and not have it come out publicly. That would be absolutely explosive and extremely soapy. It'd be interesting. And if Kelly Thiebaud is playing Britt, somehow miraculously not dead or a twin of hers that might have some information about what went on with Britt, That would be interesting. With her name coming up so much, it seems like she's definitely got to be Brit, or at least Brit adjacent.